My mic was off. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to all my tinkerers and my hackers and explorers. Welcome to day one of New Jersey Makers Day Live. My name is Tanya Finney Estrada, and I'll be your host today. And I'm actually broadcasting live from one of our site supporters, the Pennsauken Free Public Library. New Jersey Makers Day is not just one day, it's a 2-day event, today and tomorrow, starting at 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And on both days, we'll be offering engaging STEM, hands-on projects, activities, and inspiring presentations. Now, before we get started, I want to note for those who are joining us live via Facebook and YouTube, please feel free to post any questions and comments throughout the day. Who knows, your comment may be featured on our live broadcast today. We do kindly ask that any comments posted on either platform be respectful and refrain from any appropriate or offensive language. We want today's event to be a fun experience for all. All presentations and workshops today and tomorrow will be recorded and immediately available on the New Jersey Makers Day Live Facebook and YouTube pages. Finally, I want to give a big thank you to all of our supporters who helped make this day possible. STEM Pathways Network, MapleWoodShop, StreamYard, Investors Bank, STEMSupplies.com, Xplorably, and the Pennsauken Free Public Library. And once again, thank you for your support. Okay, let's get started. Our first featured speaker is Joylette Hylick. Hi, Joylette.
Hello.
Joylette has traveled throughout the U.S. On many speaking engagements on behalf of her mother, Katherine Johnson, the mathematician portrayed in the movie that you may have seen, Hidden Figures, whose calculations were critical to success of the first U.S. and later crewed space flights. Joylette is also a mathematician and information technology professional. She spent time at the NASA Langley Research Center as a mathematician. Joylette retired from Lockheed Martin Corporation in 2002. During her career, she worked as a programmer in systems integration and project management. She earned her MS in information system from my alumni also, Drexel University in Philadelphia, and a BA in mathematics at Hampton University in Virginia. Welcome, Joylette.
Thank you. Good morning. It is indeed an honor for me to speak to the students, parents, the Pennsauken Library staff, and friends at the 7th Annual New Jersey Makers Day on behalf of my mother, Katherine Johnson. Black History Month and Women's History Month are times where emphasis is on people who may not have made the history books or, as in her case, interesting to people because of her extraordinary achievements that were not known. The fallacy of American history, as we are taught. I'd especially like to thank Myra Diaz and Tanya Estrada for inviting me and for their help in getting me online. I always think my mom was born already a teacher. She always thinks of what she can do to teach children, even when she was a child, or to help them learn. She was raised knowing that education is the key to a better life. She hoped her first book, Reaching for the Moon, would encourage young people to strive to be their best at whatever they have a passion for. This book gives examples of her reaching out to her classmates or anyone who wants to learn. She often says teachers have to want to teach in order for the students to learn. She also says parents and teachers must have high expectations for their children because they will not likely try to go beyond those expectations on their own. Just in the past couple years, a friend of mine who is a medical doctor said, "Your mother is a genius. Geniuses usually think that what they do is ordinary. Only we ordinary people realize that what they do is extraordinary." One never thinks of retiring only to have the experience our family has had the last few years. We are extremely grateful and proud of our mother's accomplishments and the way she lived her life 101 plus years. And yet, she remained funny, pleasant, bright, thoughtful, and humble. She recently said, and she said she couldn't take credit for its origin. If I knew I'd lived this long, I'd have taken better care of myself. To the young people out in Zoom land, Katherine Johnson would say to you, start right now making your plans to go to college. Now, what does that mean? How do we do that? Let's look at some of her basic principles. Follow your passion, do what you love and love what you do. Always do your best. Follow new leads and don't give up. Keep trying. I'd also like to introduce a second book we did with Mom entitled One Step Further by National Geographic Kids. This book is designed for kids from ages 4 to 8 with actual family photos and illustrations of her life with us as kids. The older ones can read it. The young ones can be read to by the parents or an older sibling. Then I'd like to give you a quick look into my mother's life, setting the stage for her remarkable journey, which, by the way, is the name of the new book of her life, due out this May. She began school at age 4 in the 2nd grade, graduated high school at 14, and college at 18. That in itself is remarkable. Mama's family consisted of her parents and 3 older siblings, a sister and 2 brothers. All the Coleman children graduated from West Virginia State College, which was the college for Black students in West Virginia. 2 of her siblings received advanced degrees in education. In those days, Black people knew the most likely jobs for us were as a teacher or a nurse. Her parents, Joshua and Joylette, especially her father's goal, was that all their children would have college degrees. As such, all 4 graduated from West Virginia State. Mama, as she called her mother, taught school before she married. After she was married, she devoted her life to her family and making sure their children finished college. My grandfather's great sacrifice was living in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, during the winter while his family lived and worked in Institute, which was more than 100 miles away, until they all graduated from high school and college. That was at least 8 years. When the children were old enough, they also had small jobs to help their father out, paper routes, cutting grass, running errands, and the like. In order for the Coleman children to complete high school, they had to move away from their home in White Sulphur Springs each school year. Each member of the family did what they had to do. They worked until their goal was achieved, to graduate from college. 2 of them went into education like their mother and received advanced degrees. After both brothers served in the Army, Charles returned to education, ultimately becoming a principal and then a senior administrator. Now I will tell you a little about Mom before the 8th grade. She went to a 2-room school, so there were 3 or 4 grades in a room. 1 row, 1 grade. She began school in the 2nd grade because she could read, write, and count. She skipped a couple grades because she was so advanced. However, one day, in her classroom, she asked the teacher a question, and the teacher said to Catherine, "You know the answer to that. Why are you asking?" She said, "Yes, I know, but they don't. They didn't get it." Basically, that was saying to the teacher, "My classmates do not understand what you've said." Catherine always wanted all her classmates to know what she knew. I think she knew she learned quicker, but she did not think she was special. Another of her sayings was, Another of her sayings was, accept the help you're given and help others when you can. She has often said, what good is it to know if you don't share it? Mom went to high school at 10 and graduated at age 14. Now, don't get discouraged. Some of you may be close to 14 now, but remember, Mom had skipped a couple grades, but still did not think she was special. She just loved to learn. And in so doing, she did as she always said, go beyond, excuse me, go beyond the task at hand, ask questions, let yourself be heard. Love learning. Earlier, I said, start to prepare for college. You may not know what field you will choose now, but take all kinds of courses so you are exposed to different subjects. Put the cell phone down and talk and listen to your friends. Read books, play outside, choose a sport. If you can have a pet, which also fosters discipline by having to take care of it. All these things help to make you well-rounded. One of my favorite things is music. It is said that music has a positive connection to mathematics, and that is one of the important STEM fields spoken about today. I don't know the precise reason, but I play the piano, played the organ and violin, and I also majored in mathematics. I was taking piano lessons from the time I was 5 or 6 years old. Music helped me earn scholarship money for college. It also enabled me to have a little spending change, $25 a month, which in those days was a lot of money. Catherine started college at age 15. I was talking to Mom one day, and she said, my mom, her mother, asked a professor if he could give Catherine a job because she had too much time on her hands, even if it meant licking stamps. Mr. Evans realized Catherine could not type, gave her his typewriter for the summer, a pack of paper, and the typing book, and said, when you get back in September, I want you to be able to type. And she did. She said it was the start of her career. My mother began college majoring in French. She loved the intrigue and sound of a foreign language. But as her professors got to know her and her proficiency in math, it was probably Dr. Clater who said, you're going to major in math. She said, well, I'll major in both. And she did, graduating summa cum laude, which is the highest average of any student from West Virginia State up to that time, which was 46 years since the college opened. We don't know when that record was broken, but Mom said casually, I could easily find out. It didn't matter to her. She says, always do your best. She always did because she never wanted anyone to bring her work back to be redone, and they never did. That always blew my mind because I couldn't say that. Can you imagine always doing your work correctly? I like sharing my mother's story with young people because, as you know, she lived to be 101 and a half. Mom was the same person I have described to you before. She was still funny, pleasant, bright, thoughtful, and humble, and wanting to learn more, like Spanish. She was most happy about all the attention she got when she heard that she inspired some young person. She always said, what is all the fuss about? I was just doing my job. I did it, and I did it well. I never worked a day in my life because it was fun for her. Her father always said, you are no better than anyone in this town, and nobody is better than you. I think she believed and then lived that philosophy all her life. She was not intimidated by anyone, nor did she feel superior to anyone. I'm going to quote a person who said very nice things about her, but we're going to show you at the end an event that happened just last month. The SS Katherine Johnson satellite was launched by NASA in Northrop Grumman in Virginia. The rocket carried over 8,000 pounds of supplies and food to the International Space Station, including 190,000 worms. They were put there for the medical people to analyze what happens to the astronauts' muscles and bone structure when being in weightless state for a long period of time. We were so excited and saw it on TV because the virus had caused them to close the visitor center where we would have been able to watch in person. Colonel Charles Bolden, the former NASA administrator under President Obama, a former test pilot who flew 4 NASA space missions and was commander of 2 of them, said at the commencement at West Virginia State University, her college, in 2015, "She is one of the greatest minds ever to grace our agency or our country. Catherine's legacy is a big part of the reason that my fellow astronauts and I were able to get to space." He also said, "It's a big part of the reason that today there is space for women and African Americans in the leadership of our nation, including the White House." I'd like to end by citing a quote from President Barack Obama, who, in presenting her with the Presidential Medal of Freedom, November 2015, said in his introduction of her, "With her razor-sharp mathematical mind, Katherine G. Johnson helped broaden the scope of space travel, charting new frontiers for humanity's exploration of space and creating new possibilities for all humankind. From sending the first American to space to the first moon landing, she played a critical role in many of NASA's most important milestones. Katherine G. Johnson refused to be limited by society's expectation of her gender and race while expanding the boundaries of humanity's reach." Finally, sharing another of my mother's thoughts, find what you really like, your passion, and work hard. The future is yours. You have the library, your parents, and willing teachers to support you. Thank you, Pennsauken Library and staff. Now enjoy the video and then the rest of the wonderful speakers scheduled for this conference. Thank you.
Northrop Grumman CRS-15 mission is named the SS Katherine Johnson. Northrop Grumman named the CRS-15 after the NASA mathematician, a black woman who time and again broke through the barriers of gender and race. It is a company tradition to name each Cygnus spacecraft after an individual who has played a pivotal role in human spaceflight. Her handwritten calculations were critical to America's success during our first human spaceflight missions. Again, this is February 20th, the 59th anniversary of John Glenn's flight, and when he again became the first American to orbit the Earth. It is a perfect tie to the SS Katherine Johnson. While NASA had used the IBM computers to calculate the complex orbital trajectory, Glenn asked to have Katherine Johnson verify the calculations by hand and would not fly until she gave the go.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have engine ignition.
Main engine started. And we have liftoff of Ceceri for the NG-15 mission, the longest flight facility. Engines are at 100%. Attitude, core pressures, and vehicle subsystems are nominal.
The SS Katherine Johnson takes flight on this, the 59th anniversary of John Glenn's Mercury flight, carrying 8,000 pounds of cargo to the International Space Station. Good performance on the first stage so far.
Engines at 100%. All systems nominal. Stage 1 continues nominal performance. Engines at 100%. Good core pressures. Engines remain steady. Attitude nominal. Max Q. Attitude nominal.
First stage passing through the area of maximum dynamic pressure on the rocket. 90 seconds into the flight. This first stage burns for a little over 3 minutes, 3 minutes 18 seconds until main engine cutoff.
Pressures. About 90 seconds to stage 1 burnout. Attitude nominal. Engines at 100% and steady. T plus 2 minutes. All subsystems continue in nominal performance.
Thank you, Joylette. Thank you for sharing your stories, and that was an awesome video.
Thank you.
And one thing I want to do, I'm going off script just a little bit. I wanted to show the books again because it was very brief. The one step further, just for those who didn't have a chance to actually see the book cover and the title, I just want to just show it again. For those who didn't have a chance to see it. And it's 3 books, right?
Yes.
And this is in collaboration with you, your sister, and your mom?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And the next one's Reaching for the Moon, which you did talk about that briefly. And then the last one is, I'm sorry, The Remarkable Journey.
Those are the ones.
Thank you. I just wanted to show it again. So this part of the presentation, as you know, the students, and I just want to give a big shout out to the students of the Pennsauken School District. Hello out there. So they prepared some questions for me to ask you this morning.
All right.
And I just want to thank all the students, the teachers, the district librarian, everyone for collaborating with me and Joylette and getting these questions together. So are you ready?
Yes, I am.
So my first question is from Jaden. He wants to know, what do you think your mother, Katherine Johnson, felt knowing that the Apollo's mission success depended on her calculations, not just to get to the moon, but also for the men to get back home safely?
Well, one of the videos. You okay? One of the videos showed her answering that question, and she said, I hope they use the numbers that I gave them because they'll get up and back safely. If not, they'll be up there forever.
Okay, I have another question from Bella. Bella wants to know, what was it like to go to different schools when you were a kid, and how were your teachers, and how were you treated? I'm sorry.
Well, I grew up in a segregated environment, in the segregated South, and I did go to several schools. I went to that 2-room school also. My first 3 years, you moved from this road to this road to this road. But my mother didn't let us skip because I guess she realized the downside of doing that. And so then I went to the next time, my parents taught school. So that was the toughest part. Your mother gave me a whipping. I'll see you after school. And I had a couple of those issues. But other than that, the adjustment is just learning new people. I remember going to high school. I was bused to the high school, and we were always afraid the first day because the upperclassmen would just do things like put lipstick all over us or do something. But it wasn't racial because we were in Black schools. It was just kid stuff. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we felt confident enough in ourselves, and I think that's important, that children, parents, and teachers help the child become a strong person and believe in themselves regardless of how they look, regardless of what they're wearing, because clothes weren't that important at that time. Just so that they feel good about themselves. And if you do, it's like, oh, well, next barrier.
Mm-hmm. I have another question from Tristan. Why did they change the name from NACA to NASA? And why did she have to keep her job a secret from her kids?
Number one, NACA was the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics. When they started working on the space program, and that was secret, but then when they started on the space program, through the government and Congress, it was changed to the National National Advisory Committee. National Aeronautics and Space Agency is what it was. And the reason any adult is working in a job that's secret, it is because that's how they want to remain. It had nothing to do with her personally. And I mean, I did it too. And you just don't mentally or physically work home. I was asked once when I had to take a polygraph, and I said, well, why do I have to worry if what I'm doing is on the news? So it's just the nature of what you're doing and the fact that the government feels that it's not ready for it to go public.
Okay. That was actually a good question.
I say the name right.
Yeah. Kate, it's early morning. It's still early. Caitlin, how come so much was at stake when they sent John Glenn into space? Do you feel honored that he wanted your mother to personally recheck the calculations?
Well, back in the 50s, as the movie shows, they were working, and she and the other ladies were working the calculations by hand. And if you could possibly imagine an equation this long, because our data sheets were 15 inches wide, and we would have equations that big with a whole bunch of unknowns, different unknowns, and you would have to work that equation through all of the values, ranges that were asked of them. So, and this was just a part. They worked the trajectory. That was their job, to deal with the trajectory, which is the path from launching to landing, and it all had to be absolutely correct. Mm-hmm. When they got the computers, then all of this was put into the computer, and you push the button, and there were the answers. And so, naturally, people who were not in that part of it would say, how'd they do it that fast? And so I believe that they just weren't comfortable with the computer working it so fast. They just wanted to be sure, because Mom said, and apparently from all that I've gathered over all of this time. She just make a mistake. And we worked a manual calculator because I worked at NASA for a year. It was 10 numbers to the right. So you can remember up to 10 digits. I still know my New Jersey driver's license number, and we know how long that is. But you worked them to decimal point and up to 6, 8 numbers after that. So it was just because it was such a big thing, and until they developed confidence in the computer. Today, kids had no idea what went on before. You know, toggle switches in, that kind of thing to input data. Today, they just say it and it's done.
Thank you. I have a question from Rebecca. How much of what appeared in the movie, Hidden Figures, is actually factually correct?
Well, as far as I know, number one, NASA was consulted for the part that they did, which was pretty much so. The astronauts didn't really meet the Black mathematicians, or maybe even the white ones, but that little social wasn't quite that. That wasn't quite there. And then on the other side, as far as our lives were concerned, my sisters and I were 3 to 4 years older than those 3 girls. So, because the movie ended in 1962, and in 1962, I was graduating from college. But the rest of it, they only showed my grandfather taking her to school and driving. Number one, he never learned to drive. So that's why he had to rent a driver and a truck to transmit this family to and fro every year to go to school. Then everybody, well, so he did that for 4 kids for over 8 years, if you consider that they had to finish high school, go to high school, and finish college. That's at least 8 years with 4 children. And he didn't ask for money. So Granddaddy did it. And I think Kathy and I just thought, in terms of my remarkable journey, that it was a tribute to Granddaddy for people to really know what it was he had to do to get 4 kids to college. Now, as far as the bathroom scene, which everybody asks about, and anybody who knows my mother would say, man, you know, Catherine did not run in the rain. I say that Ted Melfi, who was the screenwriter, he had to tell this whole story in 2.5 hours. So I think that did was show how crazy it was that we did, in fact, had separate bathrooms. And in her case, when she first moved to play with the men, work with the men, her bathroom was in another building. But they were separate. They were named such. But I always say, I think she just named it. She might have even gone into a man's bathroom and just ignored them, did what she had to do, and come on out and go back to work, because she was driven to do what she was supposed to do. I hope you're not hearing me. Do you hear shadows with me? I'm getting feedback, but I hope it's
no.
Me. Okay.
No, you're fine. Yeah.
She was about business as far as work was concerned. So she didn't waste time. She didn't call in with a fake illness. She wasn't late. You know, all of those things. She just loved what she was doing, and she enjoyed going in, and that was that. So the movie told the story, dressed it up a little bit, but basically it was a true story, and also a history story.
Mm-hmm.
So, I like to say that the ladies were all smart. Mom happened to be a genius, somebody else said, because we can all say our moms were a genius and nobody would believe us. But anyway, all of the ladies And even when I went, you had to have a certain high average to go to NASA.
Mhm.
So all of those ladies were very smart. That was in a day when you dressed well to go. The men were at NASA in white shirts and ties. Today, they look like they're on the way to the gym or from the gym. But you saw them on the launch, on the other things. They're not dressed. Those, I mean, that's what they did.
Mhm.
But she was. What was I going? Oh, so the ladies did that, and then when you came home, we were in our segregated communities, and so we carried on with the rest of the day. We took our children to activities, uh, school work, choir rehearsal, scout meetings, to the gym or whatever.
I have a question from Khan from Mrs. Kobus' class. What would Katherine Johnson think about the technology for math today? Would she think that modern computer technology is better or the human computer is better?
Well, the modern computer is better if for no other reason that it's faster, because by now they have pretty much gotten it to the point where it's you can depend on it. I think what she has a problem with is the way math is taught to kids. Number one, you still have so many kids who say they don't like math or that it's hard. And my mother says there are a couple reasons for that. Either you're lazy. Number two, your mother might have said that it was hard to learn. And so if she says that, you're not going to question that because you didn't want to do it anyway. So it must be hard. And then the other thing is you may not have had a good math teacher, because mom loved teaching kids. And so if your teacher loves to teach and loves to excite you, you're going to learn because you're not going to disappoint her or him. So it's a combination of things, but I think she probably says the strongest that the cell phones cost the kids the most, because they can't write, they can't speak, they can't communicate, they don't know how to use an encyclopedia or what. I was at West Point, and I mentioned to a young cadet who was winning the award as the highest average in the science department if he knew his times tables, and he didn't know what I was talking about.
Wow.
So the kids are not learning basics,
Mhm.
and that makes it difficult for them because they can't understand. They have to memorize. They can't reason and get there.
I have another question. What inspired your mom to do all the things she did? What was Catherine's favorite job?
NASA. She taught.
He has to ask. He had to ask.
She started school. That was the first time I got that one. She started teaching at 19 as soon as she finished. And then I guess she kept in the back of her mind what Dr. Clater had said, that you'd be a research mathematician. And if you look at the principles that she has, like be prepared and don't give up and all of those things, she just kept teaching because she enjoyed that. And then when the opportunity came, my uncle, we were at a social event, a wedding for the family. And the uncle who lived in Hampton, we were still in Virginia and West Virginia, way over at the time. And he said, NASA's hiring Black mathematicians. Would you be interested? And she said, oh, yeah. And we had had a fire and we were moving anyway. Excuse me. And she told my dad, she said, I think we're going to go to Newport News. And he says, fine, I can get a job teaching or not if I do something else, because he was a science teacher. So we moved there and she went and applied, and she didn't get in the first time because they had filled their quota. So they had a quota for the number of minorities, as far as I know. So she said, fine, I'll wait. So then she taught school, substituted. And during that time, I remember there was a student who said he learned more under her as a substitute teacher than the whole year with the regular math teacher that was there. So she was just good. So then the next year, when the quota opened again, then she was in. She had applied, and that government application is awful. I think they remember that's something 151, and in all the places we moved and all the stuff we had, summer and winter, but and that's how she got into NASA, and she was there till she was till 1986. She was probably a little over 65. I can't count as fast as she could.
So I have another question. What is the biggest piece of advice you will offer people that are facing obstacles similar to the ones your mother faced?
My mother said, because she didn't let things get in her way, you would not pick her out in a crowd. She never tried to embarrass anybody. She never tried to do a one-up on anybody. But if she saw a barrier, she would figure out how to get around it. She said you can be assertive, being aggressive, you can turn people off, but to be assertive might be a little more effective. She wasn't confrontational, but her goal is to get whatever it is done. And so she would say, like her principle, don't give up, keep trying. If it won't work this way, it'll work another way. So she just best, I guess, refused to be defeated.
I have time for one last question, and this is a very hard question. Let's save it for last. It's from Haley, from Mrs. Burlage class. Do you like cupcakes?
Do I like cupcakes? I love anything. That's why I'm blowing up like a balloon there.
So Haley, if you're out there listening, she do love cupcakes. Thank you so much. This was just wonderful. Thank you for sharing your stories.
Well, let me tell you one little story. A 5-year-old wrote to my mother, and she was so little that the father had to write it. And she said she was inspired at 5, right? And so she said she wanted to send mom something to help her out. So she sent her a $5 bill to buy a hamburger. So young people they get the message. They get the message. They really do.
They do. They
understand. Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. This was a great way to start the morning. Thank you so much this morning. Thanks again for inspiring all of us. And that video was just awesome. It was awesome.
Good. Yeah.
Thanks again.
You're quite welcome.
Wow. That was a great start to our morning. Thank you, Joylette, once again. So now let's get ready for our first actual hands-on presentation. Let's get ready for working with paper and electricity. Our next presenter is Sandy Roberts. Welcome, Sandy.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself.
Okay. I did that this morning. It's live.
You'd think on a Friday I'd be more awake, but I guess.
So, Sandy, thank you very much for joining us. Just to talk a little bit about Sandy. Sandy Roberts earned her BS in chemical biology from Stevens Institute of Technology with a minor in literature and a certificate in engineering and computer science. After working in publishing, theater, and pharmaceutical research for several years, Sandy has changed careers and became a middle school science, technology, math, and engineering educator. In addition to teaching in a formal classroom, Sandy owns Kaleidoscope Enrichment, offering after-school homeschooling, library, club, and camp programs. Recently, she became the Makerspace coordinator for the Warren County, New Jersey library system and founded the system's first Makerspace.
Yep.
Roberts regularly brings her projects to Maker Fairs, where she has earned multiple ribbons for her team's work. Sandy is also the author, which we have in our library, the Big Book of Maker Camp Project. Welcome, Sandy.
Thank you so much. I got to reread that bio because that's like the standard bio. Anyway, hi, everybody. Welcome to New Jersey Makers Day. I am so excited to be here. When Makers Day had to kind of shut down last year due to COVID, that like broke my heart. I'm very, very lucky to have been invited to participate for many years. And I usually run the New Jersey Makers Day for our library. But here we are virtually, we're making it work, and I am super excited. So anyway, as they said in the introduction, I am the Makerspace coordinator for the Warren County Library System, where I do all kinds of STEM programming. I have been a STEM educator for 13 years now, and I was previously a biochemist and worked in pharmaceuticals. So this is all of the things that I love. I also did write the Big Book of Maker Camp projects. If you don't have it in your library or your school, I do encourage you to add it. It's through McGraw-Hill. It's part of the Big Book series that they have. It's got tons of projects for you. Maker Camp is going to be so important this summer. I think we all know that we're looking to get hands-on and be creative and have some fun this summer. So let's make sure that we give the kids what they need. And that book has lots of ideas. I will also say that I need to update my bio. I have recently decided to step back from the library so that I can be the Maker Camp coordinator for Make Magazine and Make Community this summer. So that is what I'm starting on next week. We have got a tremendous amount of changes that we're making this year. So go to makercamp.com. We want your input and your information, and we want you to help us build a better Maker Camp for this crazy year that we're facing. All right, that's enough of that bio stuff. Let's get down to the fun stuff, the actual crafts. Okay, awesome. Let me just move a couple things around on my monitor so that I know what I'm doing. All right, I have two simple projects for you today. They are both paper circuits, which I think many of us have probably done, but they take a little bit of a different twist because we are doing some origami. I love origami, especially with kids, because they have to focus. You can teach a ton of math concepts. And let's face it, paper is inexpensive. It can be recycled, so it's a great resource. But we're going to take our origami to the next level by adding an electrical circuit so that they do fun things. So we have a little firefly that we're going to make today. Up to the camera. There's our firefly. He's got Google eyes. He lights up. And then we're making our little ladybug vibrobot today. There's our ladybug, also Google eyes. Always the Google eyes. They're functional. They're important. They make you smile. Let me show you real quick what they do. Just switch my camera. Okay, so our firefly is a very simple circuit, a pretty easy one to fold. And when you squeeze it, I hope that that's coming through. Can you see that light? Yeah, a little bit. It's not a, I've been messing with him a little bit, but there you go. When you push his wings down, his little light at the back and lights up. And then this is our Vibrobot Ladybug. And when I push the battery into the right spot, it creates the switch. One moment. And, oh, come on. You were working a minute ago. Tricky, tricky paper circuits. Oh. Okay, it will work for us when we actually make the project. I promise. This is the maker mentality, right? Fail forward. I'm not sure what I did. I could have just worn out my battery testing it all day. That happens. Anyway, that's our little Vibrobot for our ladybug. Now, I've done these projects lots of times. You can get instructions for the Firefly in the book, and the Vibrobot Ladybug is on Make Projects. But for New Jersey Makers Day, since so many of us are making at home instead of maybe in the library together, I wanted to be able to hack some common dollar store, department store, big box store items to make our creations. Okay, so I was just checking. It looked like there may have been a little lag with the audio, so I'm hoping that isn't the case. Crossing my fingers. So I wanted to take some very common things you can get around the store and use those rather than having to order, your typical paper circuit stuff like copper tape and LEDs and coin cell batteries and pancake motors. It's great if you want to do these projects with those. Go for it, but I'm going to show you how to do it with some stuff from around the house. So let's talk materials. For our lightning bug, our little firefly, you're going to need a tea light. These are sold in the dollar store for like $2 for $1. And they're little electric tea lights. You're going to need, for our ladybug, a toothbrush, an electric toothbrush. Now, when selecting a toothbrush, a couple of things. You want the thinnest possible barrel. If it's got a real wide barrel, it may have too large a motor for our project. So you want the thinnest barrel you can find. And if you can find one that has like a twist, it's a little easier to get the components out. This is an Oral-B that I got. I think I got a 2-pack for $3, something like that. So not expensive, and you can build a couple projects out of it. You can save the top for bristle bonds. You're also going to need a bit of aluminum foil and a glue stick. Instead of copper tape, we're going to be using these common items that we usually have sitting around the makerspace. And then you're going to need, of course, some origami paper. If you don't have origami paper, you can use copy paper. The thinner, the better. You don't want anything too heavy. These projects aren't intricate folds, so they work pretty well with any paper that you have. These are, I believe, 6x6. Yeah, these are cut 6x6, which is a nice size for beginners. You can go down to a 4" by 4" if you've got someone who's maybe a little more used to origami. You don't want to go any smaller than that because then you're going to have trouble adding your electrical components. If you want to go bigger, you could probably do that too. Just making sure. Okay. It doesn't look like everybody's having issues. Let's see. We're going to need a pair of scissors to cut our aluminum foil. Classically, origami, we don't cut the paper. Okay. But that's for cutting our aluminum foil. Some other tools that I like to have on hand. A little screwdriver. I get these at the dollar store. It's a Phillips head, and that is to open our tea light. I've got a pair of needle nose pliers. These are optional. You can, if you've got small fingers especially, you can pull out components without these. I don't have tiny fingers, so I keep these around. Diagonal cutters. You never know what you're going to find inside your hacked components, and sometimes you're going to have to disconnect items. These are very helpful. You can buy all of these, again, at the dollar store, usually as a set. You can also find them in craft stores as for jewelry making, so they're very easy to get your hands on, and you don't have to spend a lot of money on them. You're going to want a black marker because we have to add some dots to our ladybug, and a little bit of invisible tape. So those are our components for today, and none of them are going to break the bank. And of course, as I mentioned, Google Eyes, because Google Eyes. All right, let us go ahead and get started because I want to make sure that I don't go over my time today. I have a little bit of a habit of babbling and putting too much in, so I'm going to try and be good today. I'm going to try. I make no promises. All right, let's get all my supplies over here and let's get creating. Now, I will tell you, I'm the kind of person that always keeps my instructions with me. I do not. I've done these many, many times, and even I don't have them memorized. There's no shame in making sure that you have your supplies with you and your instructions with you. And I always remind kids of that. You're going to change things as you go, but it's good to have a roadmap. Okay. All righty. Let's get going. Switching cameras. Hello. All righty. We're going to start with our little firefly because he's pretty easy to do. Okay. Let's start with our aluminum foil tape that we're going to make. Now, I do recommend if you can get the more heavy-duty aluminum foil, it's less likely to tear on you. But I actually buy at the dollar store, they have heavy-duty foil sheets, which are easy to cut up and hand out to kids. You can cut this just with your scissor. This is 1/4 inch, so you can measure it with a ruler, mark it, and cut it. I often cut it right on the paper cutter, which sharpens your blade too, 2 for 1. Or if you have a rotary blade, like a little, like you use for quilting or paper crafting, that's really easy to use too. Generally speaking, if I'm working with younger kids, I'll have this pre-cut and ready to go. If I'm working with older kids, it's a good measurement activity for them to actually measure out that 1/4 inch and do all the cutting. I've pre-cut my aluminum foil for now because I didn't figure you need to watch me doing that. So you can get quite a lot of aluminum foil tape out of this, out of a single sheet of aluminum foil. Again, just be kind of gentle with it. It can crinkle easily, but it's just about as forgiving as copper tape, to be completely honest. We're going to need our tea light. So let's start by hacking a tea light. If you haven't ever seen scrappy circuits before, you're going to hear from Mike Carroll, I believe, tomorrow afternoon, and he is the scrappy circuit genius. He has a ton of things you can do with these little tea lights to make them into all kinds of awesome projects. So make sure you check out that talk tomorrow. I've got my little screwdriver. So I'm just going to start getting that screw out. Some kids have trouble with this. When I started the makerspace at the last middle school I was at, Hope John, one of the reasons we did it, it does not want to come out. That happens sometimes. Sometimes they're stripped. Sometimes they're just inexpensive. We'll put it that way. But when I started there, one of the reasons that they wanted an engineering lab in the makerspace was because they had kids that were coming into high school that wanted to take robotics, wanted to join the robotics team, but had never used simple tools like a screwdriver. So hacking components rather than just buying components is a great opportunity for kids to learn to use some of those tools. And that's one of the reasons I really love it. All right, this one is being extra special difficult. And of course, I didn't plan to have a second. But makers don't give up, right? There we go. So I've popped the whole thing out, as you can see. Here's our little LED, which we are going to have to get the battery out to be able to remove, it looks like. I'm going to put on the reading glasses here and see if I can get a better look at this. Yeah, that screw is unfortunately stripped. That happens. These are, of course, inexpensive components. This one is being exceptionally difficult. Come on now. I can't believe this. I've never had this happen. All right, I'm not going to waste a ton of time on this. I think you can figure out the basics. Ah, I got it. Brute force method. All right. There we go. And we're going to pop out our little battery. So this is a 3-volt coin battery. You can buy these on Amazon if you prefer. They're usually CR2025 or CR2032. Yes, I have used these enough that I can memorize the numbers. This one looks like a 32, so there we go. Now, battery, zooming in, just in case we haven't done paper circuits before. All right, 3 volts. Our LED is powered by 3 volts of electricity. That does matter. Okay, different lights are going to be powered by different amounts of electricity. It has a positive side. It has a negative side. So you look for the plus. The smooth side is always going to be your positive. The rough side is always going to be negative. Okay. Electricity is directional. It flows in one direction. So you have to pay attention. And this is, again, a great activity for kids that maybe need to work on some of their mindfulness and kind of paying attention to details like that, because the circuit won't work without doing so. Now we've got our little LED that stands for light emitting diode. Every circuit has got a power source, our battery, something to make the power flow, our aluminum foil, and a load. And that's going to be our LED. Now, usually when you use an LED, from the store that you bought from the store, the long leg is your positive leg and the short leg is your negative. Often when you buy these kind of components, they've been cut. So test it. Actually slide your LED on there and see what your positive is. And pro tip, get out your permanent marker, and whichever side is positive, color that lead so you don't forget. Because when you're hacking, things are not going to be the way they would be if you're buying it at the store. That's part of the fun. Okay, there we go. Alrighty, So we have got our parts. We have our LED. Let's zoom back out here. I'm still getting used to, I bought myself a new document camera. Teachers out there, you know how that feels, right? Yeah. All right. I've got my LED. I've got my battery. I've got my aluminum foil cut. And I've got some paper ready to fold. I also have my glue stick and my tape ready to go. Okay, let's do our fold. Get my instructions just in case. We're going to start with, if you have paper that has a colored and a white side, you're going to want the white side up to start with. If you have paper that is colored on both sides, not as big a deal. I'm using a nice blue. Your firefly does not have to be anatomically correct. It's okay. We're going to start by folding the right side over. Ooh. Right side over, point to point, and giving that a crease right down the center. Now we're going to fold our top point down to the bottom. And again, if you miss any of these steps, check out the book. And I've got photos and step-by-step instructions there. I really should put this one up on Make Projects too. Make it easier for everybody. Okay, now that time I'm going to leave it folded. I'm going to take my rightmost point. So you can see this is a very easy one. I'm going to fold it towards center, but I don't want to fold it perfectly to center. I'm going to fold it just a little bit off. And again, this is a fun one to ask kids. How many degrees, did you go? And get out the protractor, make them work for it, right? I really loved teaching geometry, in case you can't tell. We're going to do the same on the other side. And you can see that's already forming our little wings of our firefly. Now we're going to flip them over. I'm going to start by forming the head. And for this, I do like to pay attention to the size of Google eyes I plan to use, because I want to make sure my head is large enough. So I'm going to fold my top point down towards the back a little bit. Okay, like that. Let's zoom in just a bit so you can maybe see it a little better. So I folded it down, and now I'm going to fold it back up and kind of create the little part that sticks out. Just take a quick look. Yeah, that should hold some googly eyes. You can adjust that as you want. Then I'm going to take my right side. I'm going to fold it in to create my body. I like a firefly that's a little longer, elongated. So I make a pretty sharp angle there. And I like to make this nice and straight on the inside. Okay, so that's going to give my body shape. And I'm going to try to do the same thing on the other side. The other reason I like to bring this in nice and straight is I can judge from the crease in the center if I've got those even. And I find that that really helps kids, because it can be very hard to get these to be symmetrical. So folding it this way lets you see the crease and make sure that it's all lined up nicely. Okay, so we've got the basics of our body. We're going to flip it over, and now we're going to fold it in half. Fold the whole thing in half, down that crease, and just push, make sure it's all folded nicely so that it should sit up like that. That's our basic origami folds for our firefly. I like to come in here and just fold these guys out to give legs and to give me space to put my circuit in. That's optional, but it makes it much easier for the next step. Okay, there we go. We've got our little firefly. Next step, we're going to add our circuit. This is pretty simple. We're going to use our tape. I'm going to lay that down first. And the switch is basically caused by our negative side is connected to the battery. Underneath the battery, we run tape to the positive side of the LED, and when they touch, that's what closes our circuit. So this is a very simple one to get started with, basic series circuit. Let's get started. I'm going to start from the inside because it's a little bit easier. I'm going to get my glue stick. And I like to use the purple ones because then I know if they've dried or not, and it gives me a sense of if I'm going too slow or too fast. So boom, right on up we go. Down. And we come kind of halfway in here. And just flip it around. Don't worry about trying to get it to fit perfectly around the shape of that firefly, because we could just fold the aluminum foil. So you see, you just fold it, makes a nice little crease like that. And that's all it takes. I'm telling you, aluminum foil, glue stick, easiest conductive tape you can make. And everybody can get that at the grocery store. We're going to do the very same thing on the other side. I'm just giving it a little space between them. And up here. And again, I'm not worrying too much about trying to fit it to the body. Just tear off what I don't need. It's on, fold it over, nice and neat. See that? Okay. Let's get our battery attached. You're going to want to make sure that you're paying attention to which side, of course, is positive and negative. I'm putting negative down, so this will be positive, this will be negative, and I have to make sure I remember that. And sometimes it's helpful to just take out a marker and mark that. Again, when you're working with kids, it never hurts to label. Because we don't have double-sided copper tape like we might if we were doing paper circuits with those materials, we're just going to go ahead and use a little tape. Now, very important, don't cover the whole battery because we want to make the connection, right, between the foil. But I am going to stick that down real nice and tight. Okay? And you can just trim off any excess that you have. Easy peasy. There we go. Last part, we're going to attach our LED on the back. Paying attention to my negative and positive. I know that negative, which is my uncolored LED leg or lead, needs to go on this side. That means my positive needs to go on this side. You're just going to gently, very gently, pull those leads out. Okay, and get them to the point where they sit nicely, like that. You can see, I hope that's close enough that you can see. You can see it a little better with the with one I colored black. And then, again, little pieces of tape. And this is a little more challenging maybe than using copper tape or maker's tape. I love maker's tape. If you haven't tried the silver colored conductive fabric tape, a little more expensive, much easier for kids to work with. But there we go. First one's attached. Little piece of tape to do the next. And you notice that I'm pushing down. I'm really trying to make sure I'm getting a good connection there. We want a good solid connection with our LED leads to the foil. So I'm really kind of pressing down there with my fingernails, making sure it's not going to wiggle off. All right. Now, if I did my job right, let's see. There we go. Nice. Press it together. It blows. Okay. Nice and easy. Nice and easy. And then you can add your Google eyes. You can decorate it. I love to use metallic permanent markers for these. Get out some glitter. A firefly can have a little bit of panache. It's okay. So there we go. That's our first project. Easy hacked origami firefly. Perfect for summertime. Okay, moving on to our second project, our little ladybug who's misbehaving and doesn't want to work for me. I think I killed the battery. Okay, no problem. Let me grab some nice red paper. Again, ladybugs come in lots of different colors. I happen to really like the classic red though. I think I'm actually missing some of my instructions. I think I printed the wrong pages. That's okay though. Again, we're going to orient our paper as a diamond. Flip it over so that the white is facing up. Take our bottom up to the top. Now, some people at this point like to cut it into halves. You can do that if you prefer. I don't. Okay, so I'm going to leave it like that. This is very similar to the last beetle that we folded. They're both beetles. Look it up. Good nature stuff. I'm going to fold right over to left. See, that's another great steam connection that you can do with this, right? Research ladybugs, research lightning bugs or fireflies. How are they similar? How are they different? So great connection. So we're going to do that crease in the center again. Again, we're going to open it up just like we did last time. We're going to take our little point. And again, we're not going to go all the way in. We're going to give it just a little bit of an angle there and crease it down. So the nice thing about these is they're both very, very similar folds. I mean, so you can, of course, get more complex. If you like this Vibrobot, you can do the same thing. Make projects. I have a spider, which is great for Halloween or just, because spiders are cool. So you can check that out. All right, now, this is where we have to make our, just double checking my instructions, see? Always double checking. So I fold it up. Now we're going to fold our wings. Oh, you know what? Did I make a mistake? I did. I'm sorry. I got confused with the last one. My apologies. I do want to fold these perfectly centered, this one. This is what happens when I do these two projects back to back. Get myself a little confused, and I apologize. All right. I'm also trying to make sure I stay on time. Now I'm going to fold my wings down. Instead of folding them straight, I'm going to fold them at a little bit of an angle. See, our ladybug is a little smaller than our firefly. I'm folding it down and a little bit of an angle. And again, all the step-by-step instructions are on Make Projects. So if I confuse you accidentally, you can find all the answers you need there. Okay, now we're going to form our head. We're going to take the tip, the very top, and we're going to fold it down. But we don't want to fold it all the way. We want to give it a little bit of space. I tend to think about 1/4 of an inch for this size paper. This is a place where the kids can kind of play with it. You're going to unfold. I hope that you can see the creases, making sure I'm staying on camera. We're going to take the tip now, that very top point, fold it to that line in the center. Okay. Okay, there we go. Now we're going to fold it over again. And one last time. And that's going to create the kind of head that we have on here. So we've got that done. And of course I have lost my paper, so now I have to remember. Yes, we're pretty easy at this point. We're going to flip. We're going to make a body that is a little more rounded than oblong like we did for the last time. So instead of folding straight, I fold kind of at an angle here. And this is where, if you do choose to, trim your paper, it's a little easier to fold. I just use my Sharpie that I've got sitting around anyway to give that a fold. And then again, I'm going to try to make sure I've got these very, very similar. That's my hardest part. Some kids are going to struggle with that. Some kids will nail it the first time, no problem. And that's okay. There we go. Let's take a look. Oh, that's a pretty nice round ladybug. I like it. I'm going to just fold, I'm going to fold these pointy ends in to further round that body. Again, this is a personal choice. Use my marker, get that nice and rounded. Try and do something similar on the other side. The nice thing about paper, right? If you really muck it up, you can start over again, or you can just unfold and refold. That's not too bad. I did a pretty good job this time. I like it. All right. Again, just like I did last time, I'm going to fold my legs. I'm going to fold them in such a way that I'm going to fold them out as a flare, because I want, you can kind of see here, and maybe a little better with this one. You really want that head to be headed down, because we're going to slide the battery in here, and we want to make sure that it holds. This one I did with a pancake motor. Okay, fold the other leg, and I'm just going to fold back. Okay, so hopefully I have created, yep, he sits very nicely. So if you could see, he's kind of sitting, so his head is facing down. Now I would color, add my dots, etc. But I'm going to just keep on moving because I don't want to take up too much time. Let's hack our toothbrush. So here we go. This one, like I said, is really nice because I can just twist it and it opens right up for me. This can be the hard part to get out. I'm going to go ahead and use my needle nose pliers. I'm going to make this bigger too so that you can see what I'm doing a little better. Use my needle nose pliers and just gently, I don't know if I call this gently. We're back to brute force again. Yank that out. Ooh, that's a corroded battery, my friends. That is not a good battery. That's okay. We don't need it. We don't need it. You will need a second coin battery for this from your other tea light. I'm just grabbing one that I happen to have instead of hacking a second tea light at the moment. Now you can, depending on the battery you find in there, if you find a small enough battery, go for it, use it. I tend to just hack a second tea light. This we don't need. Use that for bristle bots and other crafts. Now we've got this to take apart. we can see this is the motor. This is what we're trying to get at. Okay, I want this motor. But I want to also preserve the leads, the wires here. The red one is positive, and the blue one that you can kind of see is negative. This is where the hacking comes in. Each toothbrush is going to be a little bit different. Ooh, wow, yeah, we really got a corroding battery in there. Okay, I would, if I was working with a kid, I'd probably take this one away and give them a fresh one because I don't want them to get that on their hands. On adults, I'm not going to worry too much about it. I want to be very careful. It's possible to separate these leads from the battery or from the motor. So you want to be kind of gentle as you remove them. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of use my screwdriver to lift it. And hopefully I did not damage it. It doesn't look like I did. Diagonal cutters. Scissors work for this too. You don't need diagonal cutters to do this part. Extract that. Now, once I've taken that side off, it's pretty easy to just, oh, and I did it. See, it happens. Even I accidentally make mistakes, but I have a backup plan. All right, keep on going. So that is the one challenge with hacking the toothbrushes. You never quite know what you're going to find in there, and sometimes it can be really challenging. Don't rush like I just did. Okay, let's make our circuit. This circuit is a little different. We want to make sure that our motor is towards the center and as far down towards the head as we can get. You don't want to put it too far down because this little piece here, that's the part that needs to be able to move. So basically the middle of the underside of our ladybug. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to run tape to the back. The circuit is a little different here. One side, our positive side, is going to run up into our ladybug. The other is going to go on the inside of the wing. So this is a little more challenging circuit, but that's what's going to form our switch. It should, when I touch them, actually turn on, but for some reason I have wiggled something up. Yeah, I wiggled that loose. That's what I did. You gonna work for me now? No. These things happen. All right, more tape. I'm going to again start from underneath. I'm going to lay down my positive side first, just because it's a little bit easier than to get the angle. So here we go. Glue stick, aluminum foil. Okay, I know I'm coming up on time, so I'm going to try and do this as quickly as I can to show you the basics. Okay, now, in both of these, you want to keep them as close to the center line as you can without actually touching the foil. Oh, and I did the wrong side, but that's okay. The reason for that is that you want that battery to make really good contact. So keep that close to center. As you can see, I did. It's very close to the center of the thing. And then really pull back that wing, get that tape as far up towards the head as you are able. And I know this is a little hard to see, so I'm kind of babbling as I go. All right. So there you can see it's all the way up into the head. And I'm just going to fold that down. Okay. Now I'm going to do the other side, a little bit more challenging, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm just getting some glue on my tape. We're going to go from here. We're going to fold just the same way that you would with copper tape. Again, nice towards the center. Fold it over. You can see how I've done that. Fold it and back. Again, making sure it doesn't touch, because I want to get over here and up into the wing. Okay, so I have to kind of go at an angle. And this is the making part. There we go, I got it. Now up and into the wing. You can see this is a bit more of a challenging circuit. This is one that is, I'm not going to lie, it's easier to do with maker tape or copper tape than it is to do this way. But this is a lot less. Oh goodness, what did I just do? I'm rushing. Okay. Tape, come on. And coming around to the wing. There we go. And sorry, my glue has now dried. I'm sorry, my friends. I'm trying to rush, and that's what happens when I rush. Up and go, and onto the wing, and fold it again. And again, this is pretty forgiving because it's just foil. Just make sure you don't rip it. If you do, overlap it. And you can see I'm just sliding it onto the wing there. Okay, now we've got it. Okay, onto the inside of the wing. Again, as far up as we can. Oof. Sticky. Isn't that the fun of paper tape? And then we're just going to clean this up a little bit. Very forgiving, right? Very forgiving. So we've got our basic circuit. And now we're just going to attach our motor, which has gone where? Right here. Okay. It doesn't really matter which way you go, so long as you know when you attach the battery. If I want my positive side to be up, so it means this is going to be my positive, this is going to be my negative. I'm placing it towards the head. I'm going to tape my motor into place first. Sorry, I'm not keeping this centered. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit in a moment. A little bit of tape. You could use a touch of glue if you wanted, or a glue dot if you have glue dots. Oops, I just covered just did what I was about to warn you not to do. Nope. Okay. This one side I did not keep attached well. Oh, goodness. Glue stick to the rescue. Okay. Come on now, you little lightning bug, work with me here. Okay. Hope I didn't rip that. Try this again with the tape. Try not to cover the little head is kind of what I was worried about. Okay, there we go. Motor is attached. And then just like we did previously, we're going to take a little bit of tape. My glue stick keeps rolling into my way. A little bit of tape, we're going to attach our lead. Our negative is blue. So remember that as we work. Negative is blue. Make sure it's touching copper or aluminum foil. Press the tape down. Make sure you've got a good connection there. Quick little piece of tape on the other side. And we are in the home stretch, which I hope is about right. Oh, goodness, I'm going over just a bit. Sorry. And there we go. We are attached. Whew. And we should be able to slide our little battery in. And there we go. That's a payoff, right? So you can imagine with the Google eyes, that is an awful lot of fun. And nice, easy switch. All righty. Coming over here. So, whew, that was a lot for 30 minutes, but I hope that you found some great projects that you can enjoy with your class, or maybe you're building along right now. Make sure that you keep in touch. You can reach me at sandy@make.co or sandy@enrichscience.com. I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to help you with any of your Makerspace projects. I want to say thank you so much to the New Jersey Makers Day team for making me a part of this event. I really, really appreciate it, and I had a great time. So I think we've hit about that time. Yes. Hi.
Hey, I just pop in there. Like, hey.
I can keep going.
That actually, Sandy, thank you so much. That was wonderful. I realized I was following along, and I realized I need to work on my origami folding skills. I don't even want to show mine. I was just so impressed. I'm gonna have to play this video over and over again.
Yeah. And if you want more of these projects and step by step, again, make projects. I have just search for Sandy Roberts. I have spiders and lamps and ninja stars and all kinds of good stuff to make.
Yes. That was fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations for joining the Maker Camp family.
Thank you. But thank you so much for making me a part of this. Have a wonderful day. I will be watching.
Thanks, Sandy. Before we introduce our next fantastic presenter, we would like to share a brief message from one of our great New Jersey small business supporters, MapleWoodShop.
My name is Rhea and I'm going to 5th grade.
Hi, my name is Job and I'm going to 8th grade.
My name is Aaron and I'm going into 2nd grade.
My name is Gil and I'm going into 6th grade.
I thought it was going to be boring, and then when I walked in there and we started making it, it was really fun.
Sometimes if they need help, I will help them.
Sometimes if I need help, they will always be able to help me.
Something's always going to go wrong. So it's what you do to fix it is what matters.
You can learn so much, and you can learn big lessons like hard work pays off. If you do something good and you worked hard on it, then it's going to come out good. Makes me feel really proud of myself and great because I worked really hard on this and it turned out really well.
I'm proud of all the projects that I've made. I think it'll help me if I need to do house repairs.
Accomplished. Yeah, all the hard work and going into it, it feels accomplishing.
I feel like I accomplished something that was, it might be small, but to me it meant something big.
Thank you, MapleWoodShop. Our next presenter is Kelly Rypkema of the Mercer County Park Commission. Hello, Kelly. I think Kelly mic might be muted. Can you hear me, Kelly? I don't think we can hear you. While Kelly is getting her mic together, I'm going to just talk a little bit about Kelly. Kelly brings 20 years of experience to her role as a director of the environmental education for the Mercer County Park Commission. With her background in stage performance, Kelly strives to find innovative and engaging ways to connect people with the nature around them, from interactive community arts exhibits to video production. Her web series, Nature in New York Minute, which I strongly advise everyone to watch, received recognition from Michelle Obama's Let's Move campaign. Kelly holds a master's degree in biology with a focus on ecology and animal behavior. Once again, hello, welcome, Kelly.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Hi, yes, we can hear you.
Fantastic. There's always something, isn't there?
Yes.
Great.
But
well,
it's
thank
good.
you
We're
so
flowing.
much.
We keep it moving. It's great.
Perfect.
The floor is yours, Kelly.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you all are joining me today to do some bee conservation by building some homes for native bees. So let me just, let's see, can we share my, I can share my PowerPoint. Let me share my screen here. Okay, here we go. Hopefully you all can see that PowerPoint. Perfect. Okay, so I'm talking to you from the Tulpahawking Nature Center in New Jersey. Hopefully you all can see that map. We are just south of Trenton, so we're near all of the major highways, so we want you to come visit us. We do offer programs for families and schools throughout the year. And to stay in touch with us, just go to our website, which should be showing down below. It's mercercountyparks.org. Sign up for our newsletter and make sure you select environment and nature programs. So first off, let's talk about why would we want to help bees? Let me see, I'm not sure. Looks like it is sharing perfect. Okay. Let me make sure I'm advancing here. Let's try this. Haha, there we go. Okay, so first off, why would we even want to save and help bees? Well, I have a question for you. Raise your hand if you like strawberries. How about blueberries? Raspberries, those are my favorite. What about squash? I think I might have seen some hands go down there. But what about watermelons? Yes, that's always great on a summer day, or tomatoes. All of those plants are plants that are pollinated by insects like bees. So about 30% of the food that we eat actually comes from plants that are pollinated by insects like bees. So this is a big deal. And bees are the most important group of pollinators, I would say. And pollination is just how we get fruits and seed. So as this bee here travels from flower to flower, she's spreading pollen around, and that's what makes the flowers produce the fruit that we like to eat. Now there's more than just honeybees. This is the bee that we're most familiar with for sure. But honeybees aren't even native to North America where we live. They were brought over here and they do a lot of great work. But there are 4,000 species of native bees that are from where we live. And studies actually show that in many cases, these native bees are better pollinators than the honeybees are. So here's what some of those native bees look like. There are green bees, there are gray and black striped bees, there are blonde bees with black behinds, there are dark gray bees, there are bees that peek out at you from the holes that they dug, there are bees that stuff their homes with leaves. There are so many different kinds of bees. And the cool thing about native bees, in case you were wondering, is that they don't tend to sting, because most of them are solitary, which means that they don't have to protect a colony of their sisters. So honeybees get a lot of attention, but the truth is that scientists are actually worried about native bees too, because the places where they nest and the places where they find food are disappearing. So today we are going to make some native bee nests in hopes of attracting them to our yards. So our mission is to create a home for tunnel nesting bees. And our bee homes, if you want to be fancy, they can look like this, or sometimes you can build even a giant native bee hotel like this. But today we're going to keep it simple. We're just going to keep them small, just a bundle of tubes like this. And there's a reason for that. And the reason is that bees get sick too. And if we build a big giant bee hotel like this, then we might bring more bees together in a small space than they would normally be. Oh my gosh. And they might spread disease amongst each other, just like we do in humans. So we're going to keep our bee homes small. So this is how we do it. We're going to make 4 to 6 tubes. We're going to make our tubes out of just regular scratch paper. We're going to bundle them together and stuff them into a larger paper towel tube. And then we're going to place these bundles around our yards or outside of our homes. And because we don't want the bees to be too close together, we're going to place those bundles at least 25 feet apart. So you can make as many bundles as you want. If you run out of space in your own, outside your own home, then make some for your friends and share them. We need more native bees. Incidentally, if you look at this picture down here, you can see how some of these tubes are occupied by bees. And the way you can tell is you look for that walls of dirt there. That tells you that there's a little baby bee inside. And location is important. So when we're done, we want to put our bee homes in a sheltered location, like this one is underneath the roof line. We want them to be stable. In other words, not flapping around in the wind. The bees want them to feel stable. And you want to make it so that your stems, let's see if you can see this. Here's a tube that I made. You want your stems to be horizontal. We don't want them to be facing up because we might get rain inside and that wouldn't be good for the bee. So keep them horizontal. Now, if you follow all those things and you pick a good spot, you just might get a mason bee to tell you thank you. This is a mason bee right here. He's so cute. I love it. So most of the pictures that I had up here were made out of plant materials, and that's in nature where the bees normally would go. However, we can also use just regular paper, tape, and scissors. So let me go ahead and switch my camera here. And I'll show you what I mean. Okay, looks like it's working. Okay, so what you will need is just a bunch of leftover papers. This is a great use for used paper, like I mentioned. You're going to need your tape, a pencil to help you roll your tubes together with, a ruler, and scissors, and a paper towel tube. Okay, so first we're going to start with this paper. You want to put your paper so that it is wide. And we're going to take one side and we're just going to fold it over like a book. There we go. I'm going to make a crease, and that crease just shows me where I want to cut. So if I spread it back out, I should have a little line telling me where to cut. Okay, so take your scissors then and cut down the middle of that page. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so now you're going to be able to make 2 tubes out of this one sheet of paper. Let's set this to the side. We'll get to it next. And again, arrange this paper so that it's wide. Okay, now you're going to take your pencil, and this is actually probably the toughest part of the whole thing, is getting the tube started. So you can use your pencil and just start folding or bending that paper around the pencil here. And after a couple tries, you'll be able to just roll that right up. Okay, and they don't have to be perfect. The bees won't mind. Okay, so now I have my little tube. I'm going to take my tape and tape it down right on the end there. And I'm going to also tape it on the ends just to hold it in place better. Okay, whoops, my pencil's falling out. That's okay, I don't need it anymore. Okay. Perfect. So now you have your tube. It's open on both ends right now, but the bees, the bee mom will actually prefer to have one end of the tubes closed, and that's so that she can walk into the tube. She'll lay an egg up against the wall. She'll leave a little bit of pollen for her baby to eat when it hatches, and then she'll build a wall. And then she'll lay another egg, leave a little bit of pollen, and then she'll build a wall. And she'll just lay eggs all the way down this tube. But first, the one end of it has to be closed off. So this is when you need your ruler. Bees aren't particular, but your tube should be about 6 inches long. So I'm going to line up my ruler at the end here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 inches. And I'm just going to pinch the end of this tube so it folds down easy and bend it down. Okay. I'm trying to be careful that I don't squish my tube shut because I want to keep that open. I'm going to take some tape and just tape that down. Okay. I need a little more tape because I didn't use a long enough piece. Perfect. Okay, and so now you have a tube. It's open on one end and closed on the other. This is perfect for a native bee. So you're just going to do that about 6 more times, so you have 6 tubes. In case you're doing this with me, let's take some time to make another tube here. I'm going to roll it around my pencil. Okay, in these tubes, there's different kinds of native bees that will use these tubes. And some species will use a smaller tube and other species will use a larger tube. So they don't have to be all the exact same size, it doesn't matter. If you can make it so the tubes are less than 1/2 inch wide, that's best. Anything smaller than a 1/2 inch. Here's my tape. You guys will get really good at this really fast. Okay, and then one more tape on the end. Okay, there's my second tube. Let's see if I can get the pencil out this time. Sometimes I roll the tube so tight that it's hard for me to get the pencils out. Okay, so the next step, we're gonna make our tubes about 6 inches long. There's my ruler, here's 6 inches. I'm just gonna bend that. I'm gonna squish this down so I can fold that better. Okay. And let me just fold this down here. And so now I have 2 tubes. So I had already made some tubes, so I'm gonna put them together here. I'm gonna count out, let's see. I want my home to have 6 tubes, so I'm gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I need one more. How about this? Okay, and all you have to do is bundle them together. I like it so that all of the open ends are on one side and all the closed ends are on the other side. You take your paper towel tube and you just try to fit them in. And that is your bee abode, okay? And they're all fit inside there. I have one that I actually cut the tube a little shorter so I can see it better. Let me use that and I can show you. Okay. All set. So this is where I would put this like maybe against a wall where there's a piece of roof hanging over, or one time I put one of these underneath the railing on my porch, and bees moved in. It's the coolest thing when you see a little piece, a little wall of soil there, a little sand, that tells you that a bee is growing inside there. Actually, several bees. Now, if you don't have a place that will provide shelter for this, you can use a milk carton. So I cut one here. So I just took a regular milk carton and I cut off the end of it here. And because this is coated in kind of like some waxy, plasticky material, that will help protect it from rainfall and things like that. So in this case, you could just put that inside like that and then attach that to the side of your building. Now, you might have to tape this to the inside of your milk carton so that it doesn't flap around. And you have some space left over too. If you want, you can put some extra bundles in here, but just remember that if you have more than 4 to 6 of those tubes, you're gonna have to worry about like taking these out year after year and replacing them with new, okay? So at that point, I think we have some time left to take some questions. Let's see, maybe the best way to do that if you have any questions is to put them up in the comments. Let's see. Yes, we are making bee nurseries, absolutely. And by the way, if you do have some extra space, either in your milk cartons or in your bee tubes, because mine are kind of loose here, you can stuff the extra space with materials that birds might use to build their nests. This is the time of year to do that. So it could be, I mean, gosh, you guys can help me think of things. It could be yarn, maybe grasses, and birds will be able to utilize that too. Okay. So I hope you guys decide to make one of these and share them with your friends, and make sure you share with them that we don't need to worry about the bees stinging us, because native bees don't have large families generally to have to protect. So I'm gonna put my camera back, and after all of that discussion about food, who's hungry? I hope you guys enjoy a wonderful, wonderful lunch. do have a question here. The Brookdale School is wondering if the bees will stay when they hatch, or do they fly somewhere else? They, they will stay in the area long enough to feed. And bees don't live a super long time. The queens, the females, will overwinter, but they always need new, the next generation coming in to live out their lives the next year. That's a great question. Okay. How long does it take a bee to hatch? Oh my gosh, that is a great question. And I think it depends on the species. The time to put these out is right now, actually even in February, because as soon as it starts warming up, the female bees will start to become more active, and they'll be immediately looking for places to build their nest like this. So I hope you will make these this weekend and then place them out and about. But it depends on the species. Some species will overwinter in the egg state or as in that resting stage called a pupa. So it depends on the species, and it depends on the time of year. I was also wondering, if you make these homes near your garden, will they help to pollinate your plants? Absolutely. Yeah, there's a whole business centered around honeybees mainly, but where they'll bring honeybees to your farm or your garden and just let it sit there for a while so that the bees can pollinate your crops. So the same thing can happen on a much smaller scale in your gardens if you place these about. Okay, that seems to be about it. Well, thank you, everybody. I hope you will do this. Try it out this weekend. There's our website. Please do go there and sign up and stay in touch with us. We would love to see you visit our nature center. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, Kelly.
My pleasure.
That was fantastic. It's so funny that you brought up this project, because my son had to do a report on bees, and we actually was going to create a bee adobe.
Oh yeah, please do.
Yeah. But this was fantastic. Thank you for helping us explore the world bees and their environment. I do have a question though. I was going to put in the chat. What stops from other like wasps and other from actually moving in?
Well, I think the wasps will generally they nest in different ways. So a lot of the wasps that at least I'm more familiar with are the paper wasps, and they also hunt other insects. So that's their role in the environment. But they also go around and they will chew up pieces of wood, and then they spit it out to create their nests that are basically made out of natural paper. But as we know, that whole nest is a different shape, a different form, and they put it in different places. A nest like this is really more conducive to tunnel nesting bees. So like mason bees, like I showed you that example. There are leaf cutting bees that will use tunnel nests like this. But then there's other species of bees, like bumblebees, which do form a colony, and sometimes they do sting. Mm-hmm. But they tend to burrow, and they raise their homes that way. There are other bees. Digger bees are my favorite bees. They're active right now. They dig holes in the ground, and you can see them at our park. There's holes in the middle of the trail, and there are digger bees living in there, and they'll be flying around about a foot off the ground. But as you get closer, all of a sudden they'll disappear. And what they've done is they've gone down into their hole. And if you stand really still, they'll start to come up to the top of their hole, and they'll look around and they'll peek at you. They play peekaboo. It's the coolest thing. So different kinds of bees build their nests in different spaces and in different ways.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for asking.
Oh, yeah, I was curious. Because I said we built this home. I was just worried about what else will move in that we do not want. But thank you.
I've only ever seen the bees in here.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Before we introduce today's final presenter, we do have a brief word from our New Jersey Makers Day Live sponsor, Xplorably. Welcome back, everyone. And now I'm going to introduce our last and featured speaker and facilitator for today, Kathy Ceceri. Hello, Kathy. Kathy, you are mute.
Yes, everybody's did it, right? Yeah, I saw everybody else do it too. Hello, I'm happy to be here.
Hi, Kathy. Just to talk a little, just to get y'all up to speed of Kathy. Kathy has written more than a dozen books on hands-on STEAM projects for kids, teens, and adult beginners, including the award-winning title Bots and Paper Inventions, and the bestseller at World Maker Fair, New York. The former homeschooler expert for About.com and now a Thought.com. Is it About.com or Thought.com, Kathy?
I think it's thoughtco.com.
Okay,
that's where my old articles live, basically.
Okay. And one of the founders of Geek Mom blog, Kathy also creates an educational material for Adafruit Industries and designed a robots badges for the Girl Scouts of the USA. Currently, Kathy teaches online workshops for libraries around the country from her home in upstate New York. And as you can see at the bottom, that is Kathy's website if you need to get in contact with her. And welcome, Kathy.
Oh, thank you. It's been fun watching all the presentations today. So I was just going to give a general talk about doing STEAM at home and STEAM in the classroom. I know a lot of this stuff you've heard little bits and pieces of, so I will try to show you some stuff you haven't seen before. I did start out doing STEAM projects at libraries and schools and after-school programs in person, like everybody else. And then the last year I've been doing them online. So I've found some little tricks and things that make them work better online. And when I have to send kits out to people, I've changed some of the materials I use. So I'll be talking about that. So I put together, this is my makerspace. This is a box of the stuff that I have generally been using the last year and some of the stuff I'm going to be using today. I'm going to do one project at the end of my presentation. All you're going to need is a regular 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. So that's all you're going to need today. So if you have that, then you're ready for my project. And it's going to be from my book, Musical Inventions, and I'm going to show you some projects from my other books as well. So let me just go through my little makerspace box here. Building materials. I have straws. I'm going to be showing you how to do a musical instrument with a straw, but basically the basis of any project is a piece of paper, a piece of cardboard. I like to use cardstock, which is heavy, but you can use index cards I've been using a lot, or even just old postcards, things that you get in the mail, things that, you know, are just advertisements. You can cut those up and use them. Cardboard boxes, if you're like me, you've been ordering a lot of stuff online and you have a lot of cardboard boxes coming in the mail. I just flatten them and save them all, and they all come in handy, and they all end up being part of a robot or part of another project. And, you know, the general tools of the trade, scissors, hot glue guns come in handy. You don't need them for most projects, I've discovered. But that is another good thing to have to make things last a little bit longer than they would otherwise. I know Sandy Roberts today showed you some screwdrivers. This is just a set of screwdrivers from the dollar store. I buy quite a lot of stuff at the dollar store, but this will, you know, help you do a lot of different size things, and there's a bunch of them. So if you need to hand some out in a class, you've got a bunch for $1. Let's see. Sandy, I know, showed you how to take a motor out of a toothbrush. I like to get motors also out of little dollar store electric fans. And I don't know if you can see, the motor is right in there, so it's easy to see. This one stopped working yesterday, but you know how these things work. They just spin around, and you can actually take the blade off, put something else on here, and I'll show you in a minute how I make robots out of these. Just any kind of wire is helpful. I think this might have come from the dollar store craft department. Lights. I know that Sandy showed you the tea light trick that comes from Scrappy Circuits, and Mike Carroll's going to be talking about that some more tomorrow. I also like these light strands, again from the dollar store, and I'll turn it on so you can see what I'm talking about. But these are like, you know, they're fairy lights, Christmas tree lights. And I've been using these in a lot of projects. And you can either just use them the way they are, or you can snip them off and attach them to a programmable board and actually program them to flash on and off. This is the coolest thing that I have found. It seems very simple. This is just some peel and stick tape. So it's double-sided. It's got paper backing on one side, and then the glue is right there. And what you do is you press it down onto something, you take the backing paper off, and then you just have the glue. So when I am making conductive tape out of aluminum foil, instead of having to use a glue stick, you can use this stuff. It's a lot cleaner. And when I'm sending kits to people through the mail, it's these are a little bit cheaper than glue sticks, and I think they're a little bit cleaner to work with and a little bit easier to mail. This is what I've been using for a lot of projects, and this is actually kind of strong enough to use in a lot of cases instead of hot glue. So I've been finding that to be a really good material. And what else do I have in here? Oh, just the general LEDs in different sizes. Some of these will flash on and off. Batteries, which again you can take out of the tea light, or you can buy them in a card, buy them in bulk. And whoops, I just sent that one flying. And then these are good for working with your LEDs. And little vibrating motors, and I'll show you some projects that use these. I know Sandy used a different kind. This is a disc kind. And again, if you can put that just on a coin battery, 3-volt coin battery, and that will work. Oh, so if there is one tool that I have found helpful that I have not really been able to find a substitute for, it is a wire stripper. So this is my favorite kind of wire stripper. I think it's like between $10 and $12. You can get them on Adafruit. You can get them on Amazon. And this is what I find really handy for doing things like taking the wires of your little motors that you bought and stripping the insulation off. I know some people get by without them, but I have found this to be really helpful. So that is the one thing that I would suggest buying. So that is my makerspace. And let me show you some projects that I've made. So let me show you a different way to make a vibrating robot. This is an ArtBot. It has pens for legs. And if you put it on a piece of paper, or in this case, a paper plate, so it stays where I put it, it will spin and draw. So I've just taken one of those motors that came out of the fan and put some wires on them. And then in order to make it vibrate, I had to add an off-center weight. So I just used a cork, and I did hot glue everything here together. But again, you could try that peel and stick tape if that's all you had, to put some kind of a weight on it that will make it shake. And the weight that you put the weight on it, whatever decorations you add, will make it move differently. So if you covered the table with paper, you would get different designs depending on how you designed your robot. When I am looking at what kind of projects to do with kids, things that they can personalize, that they can change and make work differently depending on how they design it, are the most fun. Actually, let me show you another one that's like that. So I've been doing this with teenagers, like 12 and up. We've been making operation games out of cereal boxes. This is an oatmeal box. And this has both one of those little vibrating motors in it and an LED. And the conductive circuit is just made with aluminum foil. And if you've ever played Operation, the idea is to take your tweezers and reach in and take something out without setting the buzzer off. But it doesn't have to look like a person that you're operating on. So the kids in my classes have been making all kinds of ideas. This was my idea. I had a cute little plastic alligator toy, and I decided to make a sewer that you are pulling your alligator out of. And if you accidentally touch the side when you're getting your alligator or your ring or your little paper boat out of, then it will buzz and set the light off. So this is a really fun project, and most of the projects I'm showing you today, you can find my instructions somewhere online. The instructions for that operation game are on adafruit.com. So let's see. So here's another project that uses one of those light strands. This is an infinity mirror, and when I turn it on, right now it just looks like a box, and I used a Valentine's box because I have a nice lid. But when I turn it on, and if I hold it at the right angle, you'll see that it looks like it is actually a tunnel of lights. And that is an optical illusion that is created by putting a window in the top of my box that has reflective film like people put on their windows to keep the sun out. And then if you put one layer on the top and then one layer is stuck inside here with the shiny side up, it's like having two mirrors facing each other, and you get that endless tunnel effect. And then the lights are just the strand of dollar store lights that get taped in between those two mirrors. So what you have is this cool top, and then you can still store things in the box. So it's kind of a hidden compartment. But just to show you something else, this is from my paper inventions book. You don't have to have circuits and electricity at all to do cool things. This is a hexaflexagon, and it's just made with a strip of paper that you fold in a certain way. And it's almost like a fidget spinner. When you fold it or unfold it, you actually get three sides, which is really cool. So there's instructions for this. You can find them on the internet. A woman named Vi Hart actually did the video that I used to see how to make these, but this is also in my book, Paper Inventions. So you can do cool things even without any electricity. Let's see. So here is another electricity project. So I teach robotics courses that I can teach one, or I teach 5-week courses sometimes. And one of the things about robots is they have to have sensors. They need to know what's going on around them. And this is a pressure sensor, and it will indicate how tightly you're pressing it by how brightly this light shines. And the thing that is actually measuring that is just this area here, which is just colored in with a regular pencil. Because what the scientists who wrote this paper that I used to develop my project for my bots, this is my bots book, which you can see over my shoulder there, they came up with this idea for making a pressure sensor for robots that just used the fact that pencil, the black part, which is the lead, which is actually a mineral called graphite, it's actually little bits of graphite that are held together with clay. And the more you squeeze it, the closer those pieces of graphite get, and the more, and graphite is conductive like metal is. And so the tighter you squeeze those pieces of graphite together, the more electricity will flow through it. So what I've done is I've made trying to make it so it's not shining. It's very sunny in my room here today. So I've got 2 strips of aluminum foil. I've got my LED tape down, very similar to how Sandy made her light up origami. And I've got my battery taped on one side with a little bit sticking out so that it can connect. And this little bit of pencil here that was just colored with my pencil is then going to connect the battery to the other side of my circuit and make that light up. And the tighter I press it, the brighter it should light up. And let's see if it works, if you can kind of see that with this camera. So you can see it's going, not very easy to see in the camera, but if it was just metal, it would either be on or off. But when it is a pressure sensor, you can see it getting brighter and dimmer. So that is a very cool way to see how sensors work on robots. They're basically just measuring how much electricity is coming through based on how they're designed, whether they're designed to let more electricity through depending on how much light there is or how much sound there is. And this one is with pressure. So all kinds of sensors that you can make just using everyday stuff. And of course, you know, just the way you put the bodies together and the way that you make them move in a robot is important. So here is a project, again, from my bots book for making a robot hand. And it is designed after certain kinds of hands that will work with cables that are similar to the tendons in your hand that make it open and close. So it's just some heavy paper, cardstock, and the tunnels for the string are just made out of pieces of straw that are just taped on there. And then you cut each joint is the word I'm thinking of, and then tape them back together so that they make a nice bend. And then you can make a hand that opens and closes. So that is another cool project from the bots book. And I'm just kind of jumping around here. So I am going to, I think, switch over to my musical inventions book and start talking about some of those projects now. So, you know, what does music have to do with science? Well, when you are making instruments, you can change the sound, the pitch, how high or low the note is, how loud it is, and the way that it sounds. Does it sound smooth and mellow? Does it sound sharp? Whatever. By how you design it, how big it is, what material you make it out of, and different ways to change what is actually the sound wave that's traveling through the air. So that is what my book Musical Inventions does, is give you different ways to make instruments and then let you know how you can change it so that when you're designing it, you can make it sound different. So I'm going to start with, here's my straws. So the easiest project, and this is a good one to do at home too if you have any straws, works better with plastic straws, and I know the plastic straws are now disappearing, but it does also work with paper straws, but I'm going to use plastic because it's easier. And I'm going to make a straw oboe. And what it's going to demonstrate is that the length of the instrument determines the length of the sound wave, and the length of the sound wave determines how high or low the note is. And what we're going to do to make this an oboe, and I'll just demonstrate this for you, is I'm going to press one end in together, and it's going to make a reed. And the reed is the part that vibrates, and the vibration causes the air molecules to vibrate, and that causes the sound wave. And the way that I do it is chewing on it. So excuse me for being a little gross, but I love getting a room full of people having to do this. You want to get it so that they are close together, almost quite touching, not quite. And then I'm just going to cut into a kind of rough V shape. I'll hold that up there so you can see that. And that basically should be it. So we'll see if this one works. Made a big squeak. Let's see. Might need more chewing. Okay, so that's one note I'm getting based on the size of this. And then you'll see if I can blow on it and cut, it should get higher as the straw gets shorter. So there you go, a really cool demonstration of how the length of an instrument relates to how high or low that note is. And then another way that you can, how high or low a note is making whatever part is vibrating tighter or looser. So this is my tabletop version of a string bass, of a wash tub bass, which is basically one string that you would pluck. And when you make it out of a cup instead of a wash tub, you can just do it right on the table. So let me see. And again, I'm not sure you're going to be able to hear this because the microphone is right by my mouth, but let me see if I can do this. I'm just making this shorter so I can do it on the camera. So let's see. And it's got to be able to vibrate. So when it's looser, it's one note. And when it's tighter, the note goes up. So that's another way that you can change the sounds of instruments. And I'm looking for other things to show off. I think I'll get right to the project we're going to make today, which is a paper popper. And what the paper popper demonstrates is that the more energy you put into your sound wave, the louder it's going to be. So this is going to be a loud project. And if you've been sitting quietly and listening attentively all morning, this will be a great way to get your energy out. I am going to switch so that I'm using my top-down camera so you can see what I'm doing. So let me just do that. Okay, there's my piece of paper, and I'm just using lined paper. I find it's a little bit thinner than copy paper and works a little bit better for this, but you can use copy paper as well. So what I found with folding projects, origami projects, is the tricky part is that you have to unfold it at some point. So we're going to do the folding, and then I will show you the unfolding part slowly. And if you have questions, you can put them in the chat, and I will try to keep an eye on them. So the first thing we're going to do is you're going to hold your paper sideways in front of you and take the long end and fold it down and match those edges. Make a nice crease with your fingers. That's another important part of paper folding projects. And then unfold it. Okay, that part was easy. Now you're going to take that same top edge and this line that you've made, this crease, you're going to just fold it that far down. So instead of you're matching it to the edge, you're just going to match it to the middle, and you're going to crease it again. And now I'm going to take this top edge and fold it one more time down here. And if you are not following this, I have instructions and I have a short video that shows you how to make this on my website. It's called the sample page. If you go to CathyCeceri.com, and I can show you what that page looks like in a minute. I do have the instructions for this, and you can even print them out, but it's very simple to do. So I just folded this once, twice, and then I'm going to fold it where that original middle fold was. So what you have at this point is long piece of paper with this big flap on it. All right, so let me just, I'm going to switch while I'm thinking about it to that sample page, if I can share for a second. Okay, so this is the sample page, and here's the instructions, and if you click on this, you'll be able to print it. Okay. I don't know if you were able to see that or not. At Ceceri.com. All right, so we've got our piece of paper and we've got our flap. And this does not have to be exact in any way. So I'm going to now turn this so the flap is down so that I can fold the two short ends together now. And I want that flap to be on the outside. And this is the last fold. So what we have now is that piece of paper with the flap now folded so that the flap is on the outside. So at this point, this is where you have to kind of unfold a little bit. And I know this is tricky, so I'll try to show you from a few different angles. But what we are basically doing is we are going to create two pockets of air, and then we are going to push that air really quickly, and that's what's going to start the sound. You can see here, showing this camera, these two pockets. And let me show you what I do. The way I think of it is I'm holding on to the flap and the other top corner, and I let this open up a little bit, and I push this other top corner down. And then I grab the flap at the bottom. But I can show you from this direction too, because I had a student the other day show me that they did it backwards. So holding the flap and holding this, and then you don't want it to go all the way. You want it to stop there so that you have this part to grab. And then you've got those flaps. So I'm going to switch back to my front camera so you can see the result. There I am. Okay. All right. So one more time, I've got my flap that I'm letting open up so that I can slide this other corner. And yeah, this is a project that kids used to do in school to be annoying. So I love that I get to include it in my musical inventions book. So here's my two chambers, and this is where I'm going to push the air down, and this moving air is going to create the noise. And the more energy you put into that swing, the louder it's going to be. So let's see what happens when I do this and how far I can go without falling off my stool. Yeah, so that was pretty good. So that's pretty much a quick overview of different books and programs that I'm doing at libraries. So take a look for my books at your local library, or you can find them online. And again, if you go to CathyCeceri.com, you'll find links to some of my project instructions online. And if you take a look at the Adafruit site, the Maker Camp site, I have some more instructions and videos. I've been doing this a long time. I have a lot of stuff that you can just find on the internet, but I hope you take a look at my books as well. Any questions? So, thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. That was great. I was just double checking, making sure we didn't have any comments or questions. I see a lot of thank yous.
Yeah, and a lot of, boy, I had fun making this on in class, and somebody said one of the projects was from the TV show Zoom.
Yes,
you can still find those videos online. I found a lot of inspiration for some of my projects from Zoom.
And I was looking at your I'm sorry, I was looking at your Operation Game. Did you do the artwork on the front? Because it was very impressive.
Yes. I had some art training. I had some teens do amazing drawings on their own games. Some of them did like the digestive system. Some of them did, somebody did a cat, and the thing that's used for the game piece was a pom-pom because it was going to be like spinning up a hairball. So they come up with such great ideas, but some of the artwork is really cool. And the nice thing about this project is you can just build the circuit part of it first and then go back and work on your design some more afterwards. You can even add more holes afterwards. Okay. So, I just, in my classes, just take kids through making the circuit part, and then they can go home and keep working on the artwork, make it really cool.
And the other thing I was looking at is that not last year, but 1 year for our maker camp, we did the art bot, but we used the pool noodle.
Oh yeah, I have one of those too.
And we did the electric toothbrush, but I never thought about using the dollar store fan. I never thought about that. That's on my list.
Yeah, those come apart easier too. Sometimes for the toothbrush, you gotta crack it open.
Yeah.
And the fans, some of them, have screws or whatever, but if you've got the tiny little screwdriver, you can get right in there and pull that apart much more easily. And what I like about these is that, like I said, instead of just using the that weight that's already on there, you're making your own. So the more, you put your beads and your little doodads on here, and that changes the way that it moves. So some of these, if I get like a whole classroom full of kids doing it and a big table covered in paper, some will be spinning like a spirograph and some will be making dotted lines. And it's really cool to see how you can change the way that it moves by what you're adding. So that's, that's engineering.
Yes. Thank you once again. That was awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Bye, Kathy. Well, everyone, that concludes our day. I mean, we had an awesome morning together. I had an awesome time with all of you today. I want to thank all of our speakers, Joylette, Sandy, Kelly, and Kathy, for sharing their stories, projects, and their talents with us today. I also would like to thank the students and the teachers at the Pennsauken School District. And I also want to give a thank you to our New Jersey Makers Day tech team, Doug, Sandy, and Caitlin, for doing the behind the scenes tech support and making sure everything is moving very smoothly. Thanks again, guys. Once again, I just want to thank our supporters, our fantastic supporters, the STEAM Pathways Network, MapleWoodShop, StreamYard, Investors Bank, SteamSupplies.com, Xplorably, and the Pennsauken Free Public Library for making these 2 days of STEAM and maker learning possible. The recordings for today's events will be available on the New Jersey Makers Day Live YouTube and Facebook pages after the end of today's broadcast. So if you miss anything, just go to those pages. New Jersey Makers Day works year-round in support of STEAM and Maker Center initiatives in New Jersey, which usually culminate in our statewide New Jersey Makers Day celebration, of which you all participate with us today. As you can see at the bottom, that's our website, njmakersday.org. So we invite you to visit our website to learn more about our work and become part of our statewide network. We also like to invite you to complete our event survey and tell us what you thought about today's events. The survey link is at the bottom, NJ, New Jersey Makers Day Live Event Survey. The survey link is being shared also on our Facebook and YouTube live pages. We hope you could join us for another day, because remember, the party doesn't start here. The Day of Exploration and Learning is a 2-day event. So starting tomorrow at 10 a.m., we celebrate New Jersey Makers Day Live Day 2. Once again, tomorrow starting at 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Once again, my name is Tanya Finney Estrada, and thank you all for joining us today. Bye-bye.